Okay, welcome to session 3, part 2. So we are talking in sessions 3 and 4 about a biblical model of parenting. Session 3, part 1 was on parent as counselor. Now we're going to talk about the second role of the parent, parent as comforter. So when we're thinking about parent as comforter, we're thinking about what you do to comfort your child as a parent, what you do to build connection with your kid, what you do to build relationship, to build a secure attachment. I've got a couple of ideas about this, and we'll talk about them. The first one is to encourage your child. So Hebrews 10:24-25 talks about the value of coming together and as a community in relationship and in providing encouragement. So with a child, this would be reinforcing them and giving them words, positive words, when they're feeling discouraged, when they're feeling like they can't do it. To be able to say to them, I believe you can. I believe in you is so important for a child to hear that from a parent. To say that I'm proud of you. To say that I know it'll be hard work, but you can do it. I put some verses in here from Proverbs that basically just talks about the value of a positive word. The Bible says that pleasant words are soothing to the soul and healing to the bones. And a word spoken in the right circumstances is like apples of gold in settings of silver. So saying to your child that you believe in them, encouraging them to get up and try again when they fall, very, very important. Okay, so moving on, the second thing that you want to do as comforter is provide meaningful touch. And you see this in the ministry of Jesus, where when he healed the leper, he actually touched the leper. And I think this is pretty profound because the lepers were considered the untouchables. These were people who were shunned and marginalized, and certainly nobody wanted to touch a leper. They didn't want to get leprosy. And yet Jesus touched him when he healed him. And so I think it's important for us to provide meaningful touch to our children. There's some very interesting studies that have been done on the power of touch, looking at infants who were in an orphanage, and they were fed and they were kept warm and basically physically cared for, except they weren't touched. And these infants grew up to be children who had failure to thrive or were mentally retarded. In some cases, even ended up dying just by not being touched. So there's value and there's meaning in a hug and holding hands, in touching a shoulder as you talk to your children. That provides the soothing that they need. One of the things that we know is that what you do as a parent interpersonally can become intrapersonal for that child. And one of the greatest psychological needs that our kids have is the need to be soothed. And so initially in their younger years, when they fall or they hurt themselves, they'll say mommy or daddy, and they'll hold their hands up and they want you to hold them, and you hold them and you hug them, and that's soothing for them. Well, over time, if you're consistent with that response to them when they're distressed, you consistently respond in a soothing, comforting manner, the child will then internalize that. And what that means is they will develop the capacity to do what we call self-soothing. And self-soothing is when you're not around as a parent. Maybe they're on the playground with their friends and they're being bullied, or they're being teased, or they experience a powerful disappointment. They strike out in the baseball game, and they experience some distress, and they need soothing. You're not there. They then can self-soothe. So that's what I mean by when you provide that touch often and early, it gives your child a much better chance of being able to comfort themselves when you're not around, because that's been internalized. I heard an interesting story one time about a young man who had a skin condition that required his parents to put lotion on him every day, 2 and 3 times a day. And what was interesting is that when this child grew up, he was actually a very well-adjusted, very calm, very poised individual who didn't seem to be rattled by things. And the reason for this is because he had received so much meaningful touch from his parents growing up, that he had developed a tremendous capacity to soothe himself in the midst of a lot of circumstances that were pretty distressful. So, meaningful touch. The third is to play with your kids and pray with your kids. So let's talk about playing with your kids first. I think that this is essential to the development of children psychologically, and even, I would add, intellectually. There's actually some research out there that shows that children who engage in non-directive, imaginative and creative play consistently with their parents actually have higher IQs. And so it promotes the brain development as well as psychological development, as well as being very relaxing for children. And it's important, I think, also to focus on imaginative and creative play, especially where the child gets to lead and you as the parent follow the child in the play, so that the child kind of decides where the play is going to go. And that's very helpful, because all day long, as a parent, you're telling the child what they need to do. They need to get in the car seat. They need to get in the stroller. They need to take a shower. They need to do their homework. They need to eat dinner. Play is different, and it's relaxing because the child decides what's going to happen in the play, in the imaginative play. So if they're playing with toy dinosaurs, they can decide which dinosaurs they get, which dinosaurs you get. And if they take all the meat-eating dinosaurs and you take the vegetable-eating dinosaurs, and that doesn't seem, quote, fair to you, don't worry about it. Just follow the child's lead and let them play out the play, and then you follow. If the child wants to make a car fly like an airplane, let them do that. Play is a time where they can express freedom, spontaneity, creativity, and they can do it safely. So when you're the parent who allows that to take place, and you allow them to say, okay, mom, dad, this is what you need to do now, and then you do it, now they're in charge. They're directing it. And that gives them a sense of mastery, a sense of power, a sense of freedom that's very, very relaxing to your child, and is going to help them to feel comforted. So people say, well, I don't have time to play with my kids. I'm too busy. I would say that you can make a significant difference in your child's life if you spend 15 minutes a day playing with them. 15 minutes a day can make all the difference in the world for a child. And especially if you have more than one child, to find 15 minutes a day where you can have one-on-one time with any one particular child, where they're not competing for your attention with their brother or their sister, that can be very helpful as well. So I've seen in my private practice significant change in children's behavior. I've seen children come into counseling with very disruptive behavior, and seen positive change in the family, not through the application of rules and consequences, but rather just by getting a parent to get involved in that child's life and to begin to play with that child. And I had a case one time where I asked the boy, you know, what do you like to do for fun? And he says, oh, I like to swim in the swimming pool. And I said, well, who takes you? And he said, his mother. And I said, well, what does your mother do while you swim? And he said, well, she reads a book. And I said, does she ever go in the pool? And he said, oh no, she doesn't want to mess up her hair. So my intervention for that family was to have the mother actually go in the pool with the boy when he was swimming. And great positive changes occurred as a result of that. So this is a very simple thing to do, but it's very, very meaningful to children and very, very helpful for them. The last thing is to pray with your child. And this can be very comforting and very soothing when they're worried and they're feeling pressure, when they're feeling stress, to remind them that their Father in heaven holds them in his hands and is going to always be present. Remind them that he knows them fully, and remind them that he has the power to carry out his will. And so reminding them of those things, and then actually engaging in prayer with them out loud, and encouraging your children to pray, and teaching them about prayer, that prayer is just simply conversation with God, and that they don't have to know big words or spiritual words in order to pray. And you can come up with a simple system, where they ask God for what they need. They thank him for what he's already given them. And they pray for maybe even other people other than themselves that they're worried about. Maybe a brother or sister or a relative or maybe a friend at school. This could be tremendously comforting to your child, and it's a great thing to model for them that when crisis comes, you immediately turn to God and you lean into God with your troubles and your worries. And when they see you doing this on a regular basis, then again, when you're not around, they'll be doing this on their own. So that's Parent as Comforter. We'll continue on.